What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant, and happy World Cup. It has started, and Qatar took an L at the hands of Ecuador. We're going to discuss that. England trashed Iran, ran through them. And Senegal, Netherlands, we're going to talk about that. It's a battle of clinical finishing, and Wales versus USA. Bales versus USA. And thanks for listening or watching on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, comments, and we'll answer those, see what you got to say. Who's your team? Who'd you like? What'd you think about the games? And got some of the usual suspects from the podcast. We got Lee Hudson, stand-up comic from England, Southampton fan, but definitely rooting for England now. You rooting for England, right?
Yeah. And Canada's like my side team.
Canada's your side team. Why did you pick the Southampton or side teams?
I used to live there, didn't I? It's they're playing red and white as well, and yeah, it's I love the place. So and I like the fact that it's their first World Cup in. I don't think it's their first ever. I think it's their first in a long time, though.
Yeah, in a minute.
So and yeah,
that's good. Then we got Neil Chakravarty, stand-up comic, Chelsea fan. Who you rooting for?
I was in the bar, USA today.
Oh, you went to Shakespeare?
No, not Shakespeare. I just walked down the street. There's a local one here. It's called Hennessy.
All right. What was the fan? What was it like? The ratio?
There were like 10 of us. All, almost all of them US fans. So yeah, I didn't see, even though it's I think it's an Irish bar, I didn't see any Welsh fans there.
I can't go anywhere. Like all the bars I used to go to are closed. Like I used to go to the Parlor, and I used to go to there's one even closer now, the Public House, and they didn't survive the pandemic. So it's like I'm just kind of stuck. But it just is what it is. Martin came over today and checked out the Wales game versus USA, and he's cheering for USA, and then he switches at different moments to root for Wales. And I'm like, who are you supporting here? Who does that? Who in the middle of a game just switches, and then when Wales scores, he goes shit, as if he wanted them not to score. So it was just weird. But let's get into it. So the opening. So did anybody see the opening ceremony?
No.
Nah, I got no time for that. I don't want to sit and watch pageantry.
It was a lot of dramatic pageantry. But yeah, it looked good, and they set it off, and but you guys saw the opening game. Oh yeah, we were watching it, talking about it. And what do you think about Qatar's efforts versus an Ecuador that was like Ecuador acted like they saw some victims and they was going to take them out, and that's what it came across to me. But what did you guys think about that? Ecuador, thinking Qatar, nothing.
I'm thinking I should have moved to Qatar a couple of years ago and got a passport, because I think I could have played in goal for them. I think that keeper he wouldn't have made most amateur teams in this country. He was all over the place. It felt it was a fun one to start with. I felt like VAR was like, nah, we're not going to let Ecuador score that early. And then on the second one, on the actual first goal, they were like, oh shit, we can't really stop this one.
Right.
So it was kind of a bit of a weird call on that first one, but I think justice was done in the end. Felt like a real game of two halves. Like the first half, I was really entertained by it. There's two teams trying to kick the crap out of each other, which I always love watching, especially when there's no Southampton players on the field. I'm like, yeah, cool. These guys can injure the crap out of each other. I want to see a war here. There was some nice football in between the fighting. Some good goals. Valencia took his goal as well. The second one, especially that header, was great. I mean, I shit on the keeper, but he's not saving that second one. That was
Right.
that was an expert
If he didn't save
demonstration
the
of how.
first one, he ain't saving that second one.
That was an expert demonstration of how to use neck muscles on that second goal. That was a great header. And then the second
100%.
half, it just felt like, yeah, flat. I got bored second half. I was just, what's going on here? This is. I was like, do they realise it's still going on? Like, it was quite crazy. I was watching at a place in London where the entire Ecuadorian population of London had come out for the game. Like, I didn't realise that was there? No. It was at a venue that's like it's got like a big screen outdoors. And this whole like big outdoors area, and then there's a comedy club down one end of the venue, and I was doing a show there in the evening. So I turned up. I was like, I'll go to the venue early. I know they've got a big screen. I'll be able to watch the football. So I turned up, and it was just like a sea of yellow, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" I didn't realize there were this many Ecuadorian people in London. Like this is this is bizarre. Like I didn't realize. Like there was that many of them. There was just loads. I'll see if I can put it on my screen here. There was like just loads of.
That's an Ecuadorian fan zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like flags draped around people. I think there was more people there than at the game. It was it was pretty nuts, and the noise when they were like scoring and stuff was incredible. So yeah, I walked into that. I was like, okay, this is fun. I feel like I'm at the World Cup now. It got me in the mood like already for World Cup football. I was like, oh, there's a bunch of people actually behind a team that isn't England. It's nice to, it felt like a fan park. So no, that was good fun. But yeah, just fizzled out second half. But I think it was the right result. Good game to watch for 45 minutes, and then it's just like, okay, yeah, the tournament started now. On to the next one.
Right. Let's see if Neil's review is as brutal as Lee's was. Lee gave that review as if Hudson was the coach of Qatar. Right, but go ahead.
I was literally going to say what Lee just ended with. The tournament begins today. Not, the first day was kind of a write-off. It didn't even like. I don't know what you guys like, but like I kind of feel like the lead up to the World Cup has been a little subdued compared to previous times.
Yeah, it didn't even, because we know it was going on. I knew it was going, but I didn't see any catch anything on TV, which I don't know if it's because of the technology of the times where you don't just watch TV anymore and see ads for things. There's no commercials. You just like, I'm gonna go to this platform and watch this one thing and then turn it off. So I didn't see any lead up to it.
Yeah, the only lead up I seen was like another player got injured today. So, and that was about it. Yeah. But
it must be somebody got injured today. Oh, it must be the World Cup coming up.
Yeah, the first game, it was pretty. There's really nothing much to discuss. It's really a team that got clashed on the big occasion, and I think it'll be interesting to see like after the tournament where the Qatar team goes from here, because they've put in a lot of money to get this footballing project.
Yeah.
Like, they were nowhere as a team when they got the World Cup, and they knew they have to host it. So as Lee said, like Lee, you should have just put your hand up. Like they were taking people from all over the world. Like if they could find some sort of a Qatari link. And
you could have played in a World Cup, bro.
I was about to say, most of those players grew up dreaming of playing in a World Cup. They didn't dream of playing in it for Qatar, but that's here we are.
Yeah, and I guess that's fine. It's just that there were scenes after halftime where with the fans leaving, it kind of shows that maybe there is that sort of footballing culture in Qatar, because that's not something you can buy. That's something that it has to happen organically. So I'll be really interested to see what happens in the next coming years. Do we see Qatar, because you remember South Africa, they hosted the World Cup, and then they completely, they faded away from the world scene. So sometimes I feel like when you're giving the sports to certain new countries, I wish there was a sort of preference to, places which already are a little ahead in their footballing development, like other countries in Africa, for example, Saudi Arabia, which has been, got a great record in for Asian football for a very long time now. So you actually see these projects go somewhere. Like you can probably, I don't think you're going to hear about the Qatar team in the next 20, 30 years after this. So anyway, apart from that, there's not a lot to speak about. Valencia again, it's crazy that he apparently has scored all 5 goals, like the last 5 goals for Equador at the World Cup. That's just a crazy record to have. And with Senegal losing today, that's a big, those 3 points they got. Now that's going to make Senegal versus Ecuador almost like quarterfinal now, like a round of 32, right. Like a knockout game.
I mean, I don't have much more to add to that Ecuador game. Like, it was kind of disappointing. It wasn't bad. Like, Qatar, I feel like the more the game went on, the more the team realized, oh shit, we're in the World Cup. And it started to hit them. And then it started to discombobulate them. Like when the match first started, I think they had the kickoff and they went straight at Ecuador, and it was quick, snappy passing. But once Ecuador got the ball and started to like get a few crosses in and some set pieces, Qatar like played like they didn't expect teams to like come at them like that. And then you could see like the confidence after the goals got in gets zapped out of the team, and they didn't even, especially in the second half, like the beginning of the second half, that you could see, all right, we're going to press and try to be proactive, but there was still spaces, and they still just I don't know what they're going to look like against the better teams in this group. Like they got Senegal and the Netherlands next, and the team that was closer in them to strengthen the group beat them 2-0, possibly 3-0, and they kind of gave up. So we'll see. And then the fans gave up. Who gave up first? The Qatari fans or the players? Because the fans left. The fans left like how Man United was getting beat 4-0 or 3-0 at Man City, and then halftime the fans left. It's like, why are you leaving? Like this football, this shit could turn around.
But when United fans leave after a very, like if they're losing 4-0, 5-0 to Liverpool, that's at least a form of protest. Like as a Qatari fan, if you're leaving when your team is 2-0 down at a World Cup, they are completely, punching above their weight. Like, what are you protesting? Like, what were your expectations coming into this World Cup?
They were going to sharpen the guillotines. That's why they left.
Oh, man.
They were like, we've seen the way this is going. We don't think we're getting back in this. Let's. The thing I found crazy is that team, they cancelled the Qatari league 5 months ago and put the whole team in a camp where they played friendlies and stuff, like to try and make them as competitive as possible. which no other team at the World Cup had the option to do that or the time to do that. They trained together for 5 months and they were still that shitty, which I find incredible. It's like, what was
probably also
hold on, Martin. Let me introduce you. They played 22 games, so that they played the most games of any. They had basically a club schedule, and they hadn't like lost any games in the last how many games either. So I don't know who they were playing.
I think they beat Japan in the Asian Cup in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, yeah.
Which blows my mind. I was like, what did Japan do that day? Did they play like the under 15s or something? Because Japan should be beating that Qatar team like hands down all day long. It's because I didn't really know anything about them other than that they'd had that camp, and I'm like, all the players pretty much play in the Qatar league. And then
they're probably the only team. They're probably the only team in the tournament where every player plays in their home league.
Yeah. I think Saudi Arabia might be similar as well.
Well, that's the problem.
All right, so Martin is joining. Let me just introduce you, Martin, because people are listening or going to be listening. So we have Martin Harris, actor, seen him in a bunch of movies. He's a comic and Spurs fan. I was talking about him earlier. He kept on rooting for Wales and then rooting for America and then for Wales and then for America. But Martin, what do you have to say?
I mean, I think, I'm not surprised with Qatar, like, why would you, it's like the quality of the players. They never played in the World Cup. They don't have any significant accomplishments as a football nation. And I'm shocked that you're shocked, Lee, because they just don't have quality. It's simple as that. You can put all of us in a camp for 5 months, so we're not gonna get any better than, let's say, if English team will come straight from the bar after 10 drinks, they would still beat us, right? It's simple as that. Plus, I don't think it's actually smart to make them play in a camp for 5 months just between each other and separate them from any proximity of a quality football. I would say they'll be better off. Mark,
they played.
I'm saying they'll be better off playing international games against Brazil, Argentina. Listen, Qatar they have a lot of money. Even if they got embarrassed in those games, they would at least learn something because they would compete with top level players. But if you lock 10 ugly guys, they would think they're handsome,
I know they played Lazio. They played some club teams too.
Yeah, they played Chile, they played Canada, they played Croatia 23s, they played Jamaica, they played Ghana, Morocco, Lazio, Slovenia, Bulgaria, Egypt.
It sounds pretty weak. Yeah.
There's not a single player on that team.
Some names, like playing Jamaica. Jamaica's not the strongest right now.
I think that's who they can play. Like, Brazil's not going to interrupt their schedule to go play Qatar. Like, they only have like a handful of games.
No, they could pay them. They could pay them a lot of money to come and play. They have a lot of money. It's the richest country in the world, apparently.
One thing we do know about this game is that Ecuador definitely did not take any bribes, and Qatar definitely did not bribe Ecuador because Ecuador just came out swinging and they tried to bury them as soon as, like, I've never seen, like, Ecuador came out, I was like, we could beat this team. Somewhere, like, the first time they got the ball back, they were like, we could beat them. And that's how they played. And Qatar's kind of lucky that Ecuador doesn't have more finishers, because it would have been more than 2-0. Should have been 3-0.
Bad news, Netherlands have, and they will play Netherlands next, I think. So
yeah.
Or Ecuador players took the money and they did the old, what I like to call it the old Herschel Gibbs. It was a cricket player who took money and then didn't go ahead with the fix. He went out of bat the next day and completely smoked the hell out of the opposition.
Yeah. And then what is the person who paid him gonna do? What are they gonna do?
You have no recourse.
You're gonna report him and say, I want my money back? You go to jail. That's free money. Yeah. So the first game,
Ecuador. I have bad memories with Ecuador because they beat Poland in 2006 in the opening game and pretty much kicked us out of the World Cup by beating us in pretty embarrassing fashion. It was also 2-0, I believe. They so far I think been to only one World Cup or maybe two, but in 2006 they did fine. They came out of the group, and I think they gave a game to England in the last 16. I think it was Beckham from the free kick that scored the only goal in the game. They were actually solid in their World Cup. Yeah.
So do you think, based on today's results for the rest of that group, does Ecuador have a chance of going through?
Yeah, they can get results from Senegal.
If Senegal had money, I'd say no. But I think, yeah, like Neil said, Ecuador Senegal is almost going to be like a playoff game to decide who goes through, because I don't think Ecuador probably have enough to get anything off of Netherlands. So yeah, I think that one would end up being like a decider as to who goes through in second place. Let me have a look. Ecuador national football team. They got Netherlands next.
Some of these games, it's like it's who you play next. If you play the right team next, even if you lost, and you could beat them, and you could get your 3 points first, and then
put pressure,
and then it takes some pressure off you, and it puts pressure on another person.
So
well, it's Netherlands, Ecuador next, and Senegal play Qatar. So Ecuador will probably lose to Netherlands. Senegal will probably beat Qatar. Then it sets it up for a.
So the playoff is the last game. That's great.
Yeah.
But if Ecuador gets a draw from Netherlands, they have a very, very strong chance to go further.
It means they can either win or draw versus Senegal, rather than only have to win if it's level. But yeah.
You might even have I don't know what's the tiebreaker. Is it a head-to-head?
I think it's head-to-head normally.
So if it's a draw, then head-to-head doesn't really matter, right? Then comes down to difference.
And Ecuador could regret not going harder against Qatar.
Exactly. Yeah.
They could be like, we want that goal back.
Yeah, and I think we can clearly say that Qatar are the worst home team ever in the history of the World Cup. South Africa was pretty bad in 2010, but they had a bunch of solid players. They had Steven.
They won their first game, didn't they?
They didn't win the first game. I think they drew the first game. Did they win?
True. I know they scored the opening goal, but
Shabalala, someone like that.
Yeah.
They had Steven Pinar, who was a very good player. So it's not like they didn't have players. They had some good players, and Qatar doesn't have a single really good player on the team.
Lee over there reading people's mind. Where'd you just get that from?
Came free, or it's like a little collectible card that came with the jersey I'm wearing.
The jersey, just that card specifically.
Yeah, it's like
jersey.
Yeah, it's like World Cup moments, and
that's crazy.
It's that guy, Shabalala.
Yeah, you're right. Wait, you know what, Martin? South Africa
hell of a goal.
Draw the first game, but they beat France. They actually finished ahead of France, defending.
France finished last. I remember that. That was the documentary about that France team that they were.
But Senegal in that group too.
So they finished with 4 points.
Yeah, they were fighting the coach. There was a strike, I think, before the last game. They didn't want to practice. Some players got dismissed from the national team camp. Dominic didn't pick some players because they were Scorpios, and he was against. Remember that? That was a very famous thing that he didn't.
Come on.
That's how. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. Like nothing surprises me about France football anymore.
Because he was a Scorpio.
It's a famous thing. He believed in Zodiac, and he said that one Scorpio on the team will destroy every team, and he didn't
Scorpio
major players. I think
he was a weird. He was a weird dude.
Valbuena was one of them. He didn't
Anelka?
just because they were Scorpios.
Was that Scorpio Anelka?
No, Valbuena I think was a Scorpio.
No, Anelka he just didn't like, but nothing to do with the skill.
He disliked him like he was a Scorpio.
It was a famous thing. He didn't call two players just because they were Scorpios.
I don't know, man. That's more bizarre than or just as bizarre. That is so French and bizarre, like.
But he admitted it. He admitted it in his book, Raymond Dominic. He admitted it in his book that he thinks Scorpio could destroy the team from within.
Oh yeah, Scorpios and Leos apparently.
Well, he wasn't wrong. It did destroy the team.
I'm a Leo. What's wrong with Leo?
His belief his belief.
I don't
in
see you
it.
playing for the French national team.
Yeah, and they're doing fine, Martin.
Why else do you think you're not?
Yeah. So let's go to England today. 3 games, World Cup really finally starts. And they set it off 5 a.m. in the morning, England versus Iran. Maybe we should skip this because we're waiting for Maz to join at some point. So let's go to Senegal versus Netherlands, which is weird because why didn't they just play the Senegal-Netherlands game first, since it's in the same group as the first game, which didn't even matter. But Senegal versus Netherlands, this was a very scratchy game. Like, good football was played and then bad football was played. They both kind of had similar styles where they're going at each other. It was open, but then nobody kind of knew what to do in the final third. And then I think the game really changed when it's pretty even, but the game really changed when the guy who was marking De Jong, Coyote, De Jong punched him in the balls, and they had to stretcher him off. Like it's weird. His hand went straight. I don't know if it's the way he landed that caused him to get stretched off, but it looked. That's a funny visual. If like they see you in the air, get a hands to your balls, and then you get stretched off. But I think it's the way he landed. But Coyote plays for Nottingham Forest, and I've seen him play against Man City, and he covers the entire field. And like even when that team is playing bad, like he's like everywhere, and he was everywhere, and just as one of the best players on the field, and he gets out of the game. And then Memphis Depay, the quality that Netherlands needed in the final third, finally came on the pitch, and that's when shit started happening. De Jong was free because Coyote wasn't. I'm saying his name wrong. Wasn't all over him. He was able to make that pass, and one of the men of the hour, Gakpo, who he's in the shop window. This World Cup, he's in a jewelry case spinning, and everybody's looking at him like who's gonna buy this guy? Like, what country, club, team is he gonna get off the sales window off at after this World Cup? Great header in the net, and then Memphis Depay, kind of an assist on the second goal. His shot was saved, and Klaassen, who is another piece of quality. I don't know why he didn't start, but it was a sub, put the ball in the back of the net. The Netherlands beat Senegal because Senegal doesn't have Mane. They have players that can almost finish, but not clinical enough. And that was the difference in that match. What do you guys think about Senegal versus Netherlands?
I think you're right in what you were saying about it. It was almost a bit like a basketball game, wasn't it? Especially in the first half, it was just end to end, just one team attacks and the other team attacks. And you could see there were players on both teams that had quality, but just without the finish, like you were saying. And it took, Edouard Mendy, obviously at some point in his Chelsea career, he had a Freaky Friday with Kepa. And they just obviously just swap bodies, and he showed up to this, to hand a couple of goals out to Netherlands. But I mean, De Jong's ball for Gakpo on the first one was quality, just to pick him out and put the ball in that area as well. With that quality, it was just asking to be connected with. So that was great. And then Klaassen just sniffing out that rebound on the second one. But yeah, it's interesting to see that Netherlands team, because like they did look like they had holes at the back. They've got a really talented team, but even with all the defenders, they got De Ligt, they got Van Dijk, they got Ake, they got these guys at the back who are all quality defenders, but they still looked a little bit ropey at times. And was it Jatta for Senegal, who I think had a big chance? I can't remember the name now, but they
I don't know. I don't even want to attempt to say the name. Who?
Guy had a good shot.
Yeah.
It's so it was an interesting one. I love the story about the commentators talking about the Netherlands goalkeeper as well. How a couple of years ago his wife was telling him to quit football because he was playing for like a an amateur team or something, and his career wasn't going great. And then all of a sudden he's had this rise. He's this big 6'8" dude. Like, he's built to be a goalkeeper. But playing his first ever national team game in a World Cup.
Oh, that's crazy.
I think they said that between them, like, the 3 Netherlands goalkeepers have 8 caps. So it's a really inexperienced pool of goalkeepers that they have internationally anyway. But yeah, this guy hasn't done much of his career at all. And he's at Heerenveen in the Eredivisie now, and got himself a call up based on what he's done so far this season. And I like stories like that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, it was a fun game to watch. Definitely.
On the other end, the goalkeeper of Senegal, Edouard Mendy, well known to Neil for sure. I think that was his mistake. I think he was late on the first goal. He could have done better for sure.
I mean, that is supposed to be his bread and butter. I mean, the thing Mendy that caught the eye about Mendy when he first came in at Chelsea was how good he is at coming out and collecting. Like, anything that comes in there, he would just, make sure that's not a problem at all. Because when he came in, Chelsea had a very bad problem with aerial balls. We had a terrible record, and he almost overnight came in and sorted that out.
Yep.
So he's been really bad at that, even at club level, for the last couple of months. Yeah, Leo was talking about Freaky Friday with Kepa. The story you said about the Dutch keeper was almost Mendy's story a couple of years ago too. Like, he was almost on the verge of quitting football, heading to the unemployment bureau in France. So yeah, it's crazy how how life turns. Mendy had like a couple of great seasons, and now it's not looking good.
It's crazy because Mendy's goalkeeping, like, literally won Chelsea a Champions League, and then lost them the Champions League the next season. It's like, I thought if there's one thing Chelsea wouldn't need for the next 5-6 years was a goalkeeper. And then maybe you're like, all right, maybe he just needs a break from Chelsea, the team that he's successful at. So maybe he'll come to the World Cup and be better. But no, he's got the same bad form that he ended last season with coming in. It's just so weird, man.
Yeah.
This is weird as shit. Like,
but it happens to goalkeepers.
What happened?
De Gea was known as one of the greatest keepers of the century, and then suddenly he became one of the subpar goalkeepers in the league. So the goalkeepers go through that. There are very few goalkeepers that went through the entire career without major crises. I would say Edwin van der Sar was pretty solid throughout his entire career. I would say even Fabien Barthez didn't have a great club career.
Yeah, when he got to United, it wasn't great.
Yeah,
maybe like Buffon, Schmeichel.
Yeah, but even
these
Buffon,
guys are pretty consistent.
Late years, he had some bad moments too.
But Buffon's late years was almost like,
he's still playing.
Those are bonus years. Those really shouldn't count.
Like Alisson had some bad moments this season, and he was almost like unbreakable, right?
Well, Alisson had some bad moments, like when his dad died, and then he didn't tell anybody, and then we were like, "What's going on with Alisson?" But then it came out, like, after he, and then you're like, "Oh, okay, I get it." But yeah, Mendy, I don't know what his excuse is, but this don't look good.
No, this goal.
And I was kind of banking on Mendy almost carrying Senegal farther along in the tournament. But yeah, not with this form, no.
Yeah, you blame him for the second goal against the Netherlands?
Yeah, because you should either collect or your your clearance should not be straight into harm's way. He's usually had strong hands, and they usually go a far distance away. And this time it was almost like also the defender, because that's a good example of defender not backing up the keeper. The keeper's made a save. The defender should get in ahead to clear ahead of the forward, because there's only one. It's not like a couple of them you have to keep track of. But
I feel like Senegal lost this game. Sorry. I feel like Senegal lost this game in a very African team way. Like, you're good up until, like, there's a point where you need like this super discipline, and the game doesn't like rely on your skill, and there's just like this hardness that I feel like some African teams need, this discipline that some of the players get when they're in Europe, like when they're playing on club football. But I don't know, like in a tournament like this, you have to be like dot the I's, cross the T's, like every minute of the game. And they were matching. How do you? I don't know what that was. That's Neil. How do you like match a team like the Netherlands all the way up until like the last 10 minutes of the game, and then lose 2-0 like that? It's like something went out the window.
One
It
thing
reminds me when I think it was Nigeria versus Italy in the World Cup that was in America, and Nigeria was just killing them, and then they just had these lapses like at the end of the game. And I think that was the first game Italy won, and then they went on to get to the final, but they didn't win the tournament. They lost on penalties with Baggio. But it's like, you could have beat Italy. You could, they was styling. It was like 1-0, and they was like playing on the ball and doing all this shit instead of like, let's put these people away. It's like 1-0. They acted like it was 3-0, and then they score. They go to overtime, and I think Italy beat them in overtime.
Yeah, there was this guy on Nigeria team. I remember that game. There was this guy, Ekeke was his name. He had a very weird celebration after the goal. He scored a goal and he was pretending to be a dog. That is like he was crawling like a dog and then pissing, like putting his leg up. That was his goal celebration.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird that you remember that, Martin.
Yeah, I remember that because I was at the time 17. I was trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Why are you doing that?
One thing I thought is interesting watching this game though is that I think that Tottenham should be throwing some money at Inter Milan in the window for Denzel Dumfries. I think he's the right-sided player that you need. Just watching him, like he's very accomplished as a right wing back. He's really good in that position. Yeah. I know it was Conte's successor who signed him for Inter. It was Inzaghi who signed him, but I think Conte should look at his old club maybe for a player there, because I think he would be a massive upgrade on Emerson Royale or
Emerson
anyone else you've got on that side.
No, we got our eyes on him. Don't worry. We got our eyes on him. He's already linked, heavily linked.
I mean, I'd rather see him go to Chelsea for sure.
But they're asking, I think in the summer itself, they were asking 40 million. Yeah, if he has a good World Cup, the price probably goes up.
Also, for him, he knows as soon as Reece James is fit, then he might not play. So,
but you'd rather play 30 games for Chelsea than,
Then what? Spurs?
Well, let's not forget changing the subject. Oh, by the way, talking about my team, when I saw Vincent Janssen, it was almost like waking up from a nightmare. It's a very good Tottenham player. He kind of cost us the title when we were fighting for the title, because he was missing so many chances that season when he was with Tottenham. He was probably the worst piece of that team. But I wish him well. I'm glad that he's doing better, outside of my club.
Netherlands don't really seem to have like a proper quality number 9 anymore. Like most of their forwards aren't like out and out number 9s, like Depay and Bergwijn and Gakpo. They're all sort of, they can either be like sort of attacking midfielders or wingers kind of thing. None of them are really out and out 9. So I guess Janssen started because of that, because he's the closest they have to that. But like you say, his quality just wasn't of the level needed.
Safe to say that Gakpo probably start the next game.
Yeah. Bergwijn can do everything except score. Like, he's got the speed, he can dribble, he can get to where the ball is, but then there's moments of composure where you need to be composed to take a good shot to score, and it just ain't there. But you guys sold him, Martin, or you loaned him back?
I think we loaned him back, but I need to check on that.
He's at Ajax.
He's actually scoring at Ajax. I think he's actually scoring pretty frequently there.
Yeah, but
also
it's an easier
doesn't
league.
say anything because in Holland is high goal scoring league. So
yeah, he feels pressure, and when he feels pressure, he can't handle it. Like he has to be comfortable to be like to execute.
Yeah, let's not forget that Netherlands are pretty inexperienced in big tournaments, as crazy as it sounds. But they went before that World Cup. They went on a probably worst stretch in the history of Dutch football without qualifying for I think they missed 2 World Cups, or they missed 1 World Cup and 2 Euros, something like that.
Mm.
I just
Well,
checked. He's on
like
he's on a
semi-finals.
permanent transfer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
32 million euros.
How much?
32 million euros.
How much did they pay for him? I wonder. Like Spurs, how much did they lose on that deal?
We probably paid like 40 or 30 something. I think
I don't feel like it was that expensive. USA.
I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
No, they made their money back, just about.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
was
like
pretty
they
much
paid that much for him.
And we bought him from PSV, if I remember correctly, and we sold him to Ajax, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, once we got Anthony, they needed bodies. They needed something. But how long has he been there? He probably was there before Anthony, or I don't know.
No, just before they signed him in the summer.
Yeah, he played.
Okay. So you guys watched the USA versus Wales. Everybody got a half. The USA played like they were Spurs.
Oh,
well, Wales played like they were Spurs.
The Spurs guy, got it for Wales at the end.
Yeah, Wales.
Now the Southampton guy got it.
The Southampton guy.
By the way, LAFC is getting a lot of heat because they tweeted and posted on social media, great congratulations, Gareth Bale, forgetting that he scored against American team, and the LAFC is an American football club, and they're getting a lot of heat on social media for posting from fans.
Well, they're acting really like an English club, and like club first, country forget country.
Oh, come on.
I mean, that's what clubs do, right?
People don't get it.
You know how many fans like are not even supporting England? They're like, "Where's the club football? I want club football back. Where's the Premier League?"
Yeah, but here people were really upset about that tweet. You can see in the comments people were very, very upset.
That's good. That's good. Be upset. That means you're into football.
Yeah,
you know the deal.
That means you're going to.
Yeah, you're feeling the emotions.
Yeah.
But what did you guys think about USA versus Wales?
Very inexperienced team, and it showed the inexperience of American team, because they should have controlled the game before the halftime. They should have put the game to bed, as they say, before halftime. And after halftime, I think the coach didn't help either, because once Welsh team restructured a little bit and they changed. I think they changed the formation in halftime. That's what it looked like, at least. He didn't react properly, and then he made substitutions that made no sense. And keeping Reina on the bench until the end also didn't make sense. So
keeping who?
Reina.
Well, Reina didn't come in at all.
That's what I'm saying. He kept him on the bench. Yeah.
He's not fit. He's not fully fit.
Yeah, but he could have played 15 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, Josh Sargent ain't gonna win you a game.
Yeah, he had like one chance early, and then that was it. Like, I was at home telling Martin they should put in Aronson, and when Aronson came in, you could see the difference of the player. But I don't know if they kind of play the same position. But they like USA. I know they had some yellow cards, and they didn't want to get everybody cards, and Wales was like stepping up the pressure. But they changed out their entire midfield except for Tyler Adams, who just was everywhere and just did everything for America and just balled out. Was probably the player of the match on both sides. And they just switched out the midfield, and Wales made their changes. Their changes seemed more effective. America's changes seemed like they made Wales more effective. And we just hanging in there by our nails. And then it was that Zimmerman who made an unnecessary tackle.
Yep.
It was Ream.
No, it was Zimmerman.
Was it Zimmerman? Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they both.
I get mixed up. They both got. Yeah, it was some like him on Bale. Was some full on like man bun on man bun.
Yeah,
crime.
man bun on man bun.
It was actually
I
very
thought it was
strong.
Ream, no?
Huh?
Martin keeps
I thought
telling
it
me
was
Zimmerman.
Ream too.
Zimmerman.
Was
You
Zimmerman?
know why I believe it wasn't Reams? Because Reams got a yellow on Bale early up the field, which. So maybe he would have. Maybe he would have got
Oh,
another
yeah,
yellow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Zimmerman. But apparently even the commentators got confused and they kept saying
Yeah,
Ream.
Zimmerman.
I guess that's why I got confused, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Team USA defender Walker Zimmerman was roasted on Twitter for giving up a penalty kick with a costly foul against Wales. Yeah. Sports War
Yeah,
is
the British
Walker Zimmerman. Yeah, he's
the
getting
British comment
shit. Yeah.
the British commentator said Ream as well.
Yeah.
I guess all tall white guys with man buns look alike.
You got
Ream
a
was
pair of
actually
baristas at centre back for you guys. Do you have a Formula One car starting in your house or something?
What is going on there, Neil?
Or is that a vuvuzela? Are we going back to 2010?
You bought out those collectible cards. Shabalala.
Are they doing construction or demolition at your house?
No, I think they're putting them in
Yeah, somebody's making you one hell of a smoothie. Jesus Christ.
Or Neil's or either that, or Neil's found the Neil's actually at the Qatar World Cup camp, and that's some of the players who played badly against Ecuador being dealt with.
Oh, they're still building housing.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the
Andres Escobar stage of the World Cup?
Did you guys see the I forgot what they call it, but they didn't get to like build hotels for everyone, so they have these luxury tents, but they just so one guy, he went to his tent, it's like $100 and something a day, 175, and they just zip it open, and there's a bed in there and a fan, and we're talking about in the desert, fam. So like a plastic tent heated all day with just a fan in it. It's just, and one guy, he paid 1,000 and change, and he said, I forgot where he's from, but he said, I can't stay here. And the interviewer was like, you're just gonna lose the money? He said, yeah, I can't stay here. So there's a fire festival aspect to the to the whole World Cup. Like,
yeah, you don't want to know what you have to do if you want some water out there.
Shit, I don't know. Even Martin from TalkSport, I was watching like an interview, and they were in it. So some of the team is in Qatar, and one of the clips was like they asked one of the guys, where's Dean Saunders or something like that, where's Martin? And he said he left. He said he's not having a hotel. He's like, I'm fine with it, but I'm not having this hotel. But I've seen other people with fine accommodations, so I guess it depends.
Yeah, but going
so
back
USA,
that's a big missed opportunity, and it might bite them in the ass because they're playing England next. And if Wales wins their game against Iran, and England beats the United States, then England might not have played the strongest team against Wales. So, because they'll be already finishing first anyway.
But let me ask you a question. Why does like the broadcasting team for the US and just most US people just are so dismissive of Wales? Like last week we went through Wales's team, and they're all professional football players playing mostly in the Premier League. And Gareth Bale has won more than everybody on the USA team combined. 5 Champions League. He even won their cup in America. and it's like this morning, the whole buildup was about the USA. And it's like, I've never seen them miss an opportunity to market Gareth Bale, even like during the Euros or something. They'll always bring him up, but let's okay. And here's the Welsh team, and they painted a picture of like this was an easy game for the US, and it started like that. But then I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't watch soccer a lot that can't understand why the US did not beat this team because of the picture that was painted by the commentators. Like Wales is they're pretty much like this score is more realistic than anything that anybody was saying.
I think it showed in the players that Wales could bring on as well. Like Kiefer Moore, they threw him on at half time.
Yes,
he was one of the things that changed the game. Because I thought he was fantastic. He caused them real problems when Wales switched the tactics up.
Yeah, because they went direct, and he was like, he almost put one in, and he put it over the bar.
He should have finished that one. Yeah, he should have.
He had a free header, but that's his specialty.
Because they started with James and Bale as the forwards, and kind of they were trying to sort of do it on the break a little bit. And that wasn't quite working. They soaked up a little bit of pressure. I think USA were a little bit wasteful as well. They didn't quite capitalize on their period that they had where they were dominant in that first half, and then made to pay for it eventually. But like you say, we went through it last week that the Wales team are no mugs. Like you say, they're all top division players in whatever country they play in. Most of them in the Premier League, and then a few like Ampadu playing in Serie A, Ramsey playing in Liga, Bale in MLS. But the rest of them, it's like pretty much all Premier League players and a couple of Championship ones in there. But they're
one from League One. There's one guy from League One actually who came up.
But I think I had the same view. Like
Man, how big is this smoothie that you get made?
No, I definitely thought Wales far stronger than USA, but the way US played that first half,
right?
I mean, that was a world-class performance from a team in the World Cup. Like that
But just to finish what you were saying, like Martin came over and we was watching the game, and he's like, he did say, I guess the same thing that Lee said, that the United States should have finished some of those chances in the first half. It was very wasteful, and this stuff might come back to haunt them, and it did. And to be honest, like the United States might not make it out of this first round. Like there's an underestimation that we made last week, or I definitely did, and I found out this week that all the teams in this group are in the top 20, and I didn't know that. So it's not an easy group. It might be low key the group of death, as close to a group of death as could be. And the United States might not get out of this. And this is going to be a terrible disappointment to this Fox panel of ex-players that are so demanding. But this is also a very young US team, and I feel like the next World Cup is their World Cup, more likely, but we'll see. I'm trying to hold off.
You know what the real problem was, though, for the US was they were winning 1-0, and then they put an Inter Miami player on the field. That's where they fucked up. You put someone on that's being coached by Phil Neville, you're going to concede. That's how it works.
A guy, he's on Inter Milan, but doesn't really play for Inter Milan. He's there.
No, Yedlin plays.
Wales almost won it, and it's thanks to Kelly Acosta's last-minute tactical foul that they didn't win it, because they would put it in. He would put it in to an empty goal. He would put it in.
The game also showed me
they're teammates. They're actually teammates at LAFC. They were joking after the game. Yeah.
It also showed me like the lack of America has a strong starting 11, maybe 12 players, but after that, it gets sketch. Like the people that they put in for the people that they took out was not the same level. Yeah. So that's going to give America trouble.
About what you said, because I agree with you, but at the same time, there's also another argument for that. You said that the next World Cup will be Americans' World Cup, but it's a point that Bill Simmons, who is one of my favorite sports journalists in America, sometimes makes on his podcasts.
You told me you hated him.
You can't control the future. You can only control the present. And sometimes
there's no such thing as the next one.
No, sometimes you can say, 4 years from now they'll be better. They might not, because two people get injured. Someone will be out of form. You have a team here and now, and you are better on paper than Wales. You should beat Wales. They're not
better on paper than Wales.
They're better.
No, they're not. Says they're not. I didn't think so last week, and this score proves I was right.
Wales, their best players are past their prime. Bale is past his prime. Ramsey's way past his prime.
Zidane was past his prime when he put on a show against Brazil and Ronaldinho.
Okay.
Like when you're a special player, you're a special player, and you could pull one out. You know, I'm just saying.
But I think across the board, America had stronger starting lineup.
Yeah, I think on paper, just. I think they have they have a slightly better team, but not by a million miles. But the USA team was slightly better. But if you're relying on Josh Sargent, who plays for Norwich, to score goals,
I agree with you, but without Sargent, there's no one. You know, they have to change the way they play, because without Sargent, there's no one to win headers in the middle. So they should stop crossing the ball all the time.
Yeah, I don't know why they kept crossing the ball, because the best spell of US's play happened when they were playing it on the ground. That's what led to the goal. And then they just get flying.
Yeah, and then when the Sargent was not on, there's literally nobody who can win a header.
And then you have Yedlin. First of all, they're not good at cross. First of all, like you said, they should play the ball on the ground. Then you have Yedlin with the most inaccurate crosses.
Because he's being coached by Phil Neville.
he's like, all you got to do is cross the ball. Like, you never had crossing practice once. It's just like, it's not going to work. There's no tall people to pass it to. Keeper Moore is not on your team. He's on the other team. Stop putting those crosses in and keep the ball down.
Hell of a finish by Ware, though, when he did get that chance in the first half.
Oh yeah, that was
took it really well.
And I'll give that was a good team goal. That ball was built from the back, and the great touches to get upfield, and great splitting of the defense by Pulisic. Great pass by him, and great one touch.
I didn't know the US had that in them to actually.
I like Pulisic on ESPN. On ESPN, ESPN pundit, and it's like their featured video on their app says that Pulisic should be benched for the next game. I'm like, did we watch the same game? I mean, for me, Pulisic made it at least 2 times.
Yeah, he was
Neil was happy.
He's like, Pulisic was doing everything that you'd want forward to do.
I mean, he made some bad decisions, but he was involved a lot creatively. So
he sometimes holds on to the ball a little, like that half a second longer.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the point is, I think now with the draw, it essentially boils down to who's going to get the better goal difference with Iran, right? Because I think neither team is going to win against England. This England team, I think.
Well, but the problem is, if England beats US, they'll not probably play the strongest team against Wales, and Wales can actually get a draw from England in the last game.
I think you're underestimating how much England don't like Wales, and also I think it was in the Euros. Everyone thought that Southgate would rotate heavily.
Yes, Southgate never rotates.
When England were through, no, he likes consistency. He likes to keep the same players playing. So I don't think there's any danger of that. England wouldn't dare, England wouldn't dare throw a game against Wales.
Yeah, and then and Martin, let me say this: they already rotated today. That's the most rotation I've ever seen him do.
And also, who are they going to rotate? You think Harry Kane, who would love a golden boot, is going to want to sit one game out? He's not going to want to. So, if anything, their rotation might lead to Harry Maguire not playing. It's a good thing.
But this is, it's like a tradition at World Cup that sometimes those teams do rest players on third game, when they have already secured, it happens. It's a thing.
Yeah, they do that sometimes. Yeah.
No, but you also want to finish top, right? So you don't want to risk finishing up,
and then
6 points. And then,
opponent.
Yeah. Because if you finish tied on 6 points, and then Wales, because you dropped your guard, also got the win, and now they're tied on 6 points too. Well, actually, they're going to be higher because they would have had the draw. So they'll be on 7 points. You're now suddenly second in the group and facing France instead of facing, Senegal or Ecuador. So you don't want to take any game lightly when it's a 4-team group.
No. Also, England Wales it's a derby. It's a game that you don't want to lose that going into the knockout rounds. Even if we were already through, you don't want to lose that. That's a horrible. Confidence knock to take going into the next round. England will be doing all they can to win that game. I can assure you of that.
And
hopefully,
you know what it just just dawned upon me that if it comes down to a shootout versus Iran, Gareth Bale might be able to bully, and then that's the World Cup done for US, which would be a bad way to go, because I really think they played so well today. This was an opportunity lost to have almost sealed qualification, because you can take those points versus Iran.
I'm just emailing Maz this link so he could join us. Just making sure. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so hopefully, yeah, we've been stalling, talking about this USA Iran game. So
I really want to
just
see
so-
US go to the knockouts, because I think it's going to be a great atmosphere in the around the country.
the Wales' presence in the stands was impressive today. I think they,
their
I think
fans
they
were
were
great.
more. Yeah, I think they were more of them than the American fans. I didn't know that Wales had that many people to travel. Like, how big is Wales? How many people they got?
It's not
Oh,
that
here we
big, but
go.
they
You didn't mention, Ian, that we both had the realization around 80th minute that James was on the field, and we couldn't see him for like 80 minutes.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Dan James. The first time I saw him was when they did the kickoff, and then I saw him when they sat him on the bench. And I'm like, did I just miss something? Did he play 70 minutes or however long it was and not touch the ball? I don't know what happened. All right, so everybody, we got Maz Jobrani, Iranian fan, stand-up comic. You see him in so many things. And Maz woke up. What time you woke up this morning to watch Iran versus
my
England?
God, worst
Let me
decision
introduce-
ever.
Maz invited him into a friend's house. His friend's house. Did you go to your friend's house?
Yeah, so Ian knows last night I have this other friend who knows Elton John, and he was like, hey, you want to come to the Elton John farewell concert at Dodger Stadium? I said, that sounds fantastic.
Damn.
So I went with my wife, and it was amazing. It was great. But by the time we got home, I don't know if you guys have ever gone to like an event at Dodger Stadium and try to get an Uber, but it's a disaster because there's like, it takes an hour at least. It's Uber drivers are in the highest demand. Like, it's kind of like, Uber drivers are like the hot girl at the club. Like, they could take their pick. And so and then Uber does that thing where it'll be like, we're finding a person, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then they keep dumping you. I was like, took us an hour. Anyway, by the time I got home, it was like 12:30. I'm in bed by 1. And then I told Ian, my buddy was like, come over, we'll watch the Iran-England game. Starts at 5, which means I have to wake up at 4. I woke up at 4:20. I was like, I came this close to texting him, but I was like, he's like, I'm getting bagels. And so I go, all right. So then I showed up.
How many bagels did you eat watching that game?
Well, I ate. It's so funny because I wasn't even, because I'd only gone to bed like a few hours before. When I came back from the Elton John concert, I ended up snacking. So I was already like kind of full, but I still was like, oh, the bagels look good. So I had a bagel, cream cheese, some berries, some tea. And then I'm, by the way, to make it even worse was he's got cats and I'm allergic to cats. So I was like starting to sneeze. And the score was just like, I go, this is not worth it. So I left. I think it was 4-0. Was it 4-0 before they scored their?
So yeah. So
I
you
missed
walked out like
68
that.
Iran goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you missed a drawn game because there was 2-2 after that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
No, it was interesting because I was like,
Chakravarty,
hey Neil, how are you,
comic
man?
from San Diego, and that's
How
Lee
are you?
Hudson, stand-up comic
Hey,
from
Lee.
England, and Martin, right? Martin
Yeah. How
Harris.
you doing? Yeah.
So all football fans.
Yeah, I actually got home because I also had other stuff to do this morning. I was like, I got to get a nap in, blah blah blah. So I got home. I go, let me just turn it on for a second. And then as soon as I left, they scored. So my buddy's like, "Hey man, they're coming back." I go, I'm not coming back. Then when I got home, I was like, let me watch this. So I started watching, and they got close on that one goal that what's his name, Sardar Usman. He could have,
The
obviously
hero. The hero.
the one guy who had actually made a statement
Spoken
against
up.
the regime.
Mm.
Yeah. So he had the ball, and I thought he could have gone like probably to the lower right, but he didn't do that. And then we got the PK, which PK felt like it was like pity, like out of pity. The ref
Yeah.
was like, "All right, I'll give you a PK."
Because it
Yeah.
wasn't any more than the one that England didn't get in the first half when Maguire was
Absolutely.
being like bear hugged by that
Yeah.
guy. But I mean, I
Absolutely.
think you could see from the national anthem that the players had a lot on like weighing on them.
Yeah.
The way they like their little silent protests, like that felt like you could see in them that meant like a lot to them to have to do that. And I don't think that's ever a good mindset to be taking into a huge sporting event. So,
Yeah.
but you know, credit to them for doing that. But I don't know if that played a part in the performance, maybe.
Well, I'm getting since Ian knows I was born in Iran, so I've been watching the news all the time. So I guess the news goes that these guys had a first of all, I think a few weeks ago when the protest first started, they had some exhibition match, and when they played the national anthem, they kept their black sweatshirts over their jerseys,
Yeah,
which
the
was
training
a bigger
sweatshirts,
protest.
yeah.
And did they have
Yeah.
that match in Iran?
No, it wasn't in Iran. It was out of Iran,
Oh,
but they
okay.
live in Iran, so it still is a big deal for them. Now,
No, it's
just
tough.
to,
Yeah.
and just to show you, like other athletes, so the Iranian like beach soccer team was in Brazil. The guy scored a goal, and after he scored the goal, he faked as if he's cutting his hair in solidarity with the women of Iran. And then I think when they won, I think they might have won, and they played the national anthem and just had their heads down. There was an Iranian female like professional skater who supposedly competed and took the hijab off in competition, again in support of the people of Iran. And then there was also another Iranian female athlete who's a rock climber. She took her hijab off. So these guys all get in trouble when they go back.
And I think one of them, she did that in a competition in Iran itself, which is
I don't know if
more.
I don't know if the picture that I saw out of Iran was a women's basketball team that took pictures without the hijab on. So I think the people of Iran are just like at their wits' end because this government is corrupt. It's brutal. It's been killing. I always say, the Islamic regime took Americans hostage for 444 days and took Iranians hostage for 43 years. They've killed, they've murdered, they continue to murder, they continue to do all this stuff. And so now you have this young generation that's really had enough. And they look around the world and they see the freedoms that people have. I mean, last time when I'm at this Elton John concert, I'm looking around and people are just living their lives. And I'm going, geez, like these guys, this couldn't happen in Iran. And so anyway, so what happened with the national team?
Elton John, definitely not.
Definitely not. But at some point, I guess the national team was invited to go meet with, it was either the president, who's Raisi, or Khamenei, who's the supreme leader. And they went, and supposedly there was pictures of them like, bowing their head in respect and all this other stuff. So they started getting a lot of criticism from the Iranian community to go, wow, your people are getting killed and you're going and bowing down to these brutal leaders. And then somebody also told me, and again, I don't know the details of this, but I guess the goalkeeper, someone with a similar last name, had recently either been killed or imprisoned or something. And so I don't know if he's like related to the person or not, but again,
the backup goalkeeper today?
No, the guy who got hit in the face, whatever his name is, I forget his name.
His nose was broken, right? It looked like it was broken today.
It looks like he got hit really badly. But again, all of that to say, they were going into this match with a lot of criticism from the Iranian community going, you guys went and you bowed down to these leaders, and now is your chance to really step up. Now, there's this one guy on social media who's really funny. He just basically gets on social media. He's this Iranian guy, and he just curses out like the supreme leader, the president, everybody. And he's very funny about it. So he had a video that was actually kind of interesting. He's like, what you guys need to do to the national team, he goes, this is your chance to make history. He goes, you come out, when they play the national anthem, you all take a knee, and then you get up and you walk off the field and basically forfeit the game. And I was like, whoa, that would be That would be an amazing play. And seeing the results of today might have even been a better move for them.
Yeah, because a forfeit is a 3-0, like legally under the FIFA law, a forfeit gets recorded as a 3-0 defeat, which is better than a 6-2 defeat.
Yeah,
Maz,
there's a 3-0
Maz,
defeat.
Maz, based on what you're telling me, that you're saying that England's performance today wasn't that good.
Dude,
on...
I was really impressed with it. I was watching. I go, England's got to be one of the favored countries to win. Those two, the two 19-year-olds, Saka and what's the other one? Who's the guy who scored first?
Bellingham.
I mean, I was impressed. And then to have like Kane had a move. Now you gotta wonder. Like I don't know if I texted you or who I texted. I said it felt like watching a pro team playing an AYSO, like my son's AYSO team, because like. Kane, the assist that Kane had to Sterling, he was going down the right side and he did a little juke. He just kind of stopped for a second and then went again and just got himself an extra foot or two. And I was like, wow, what a move. So England's looking good, man. You might have a chance to win it.
But Maz,
we look good against countries in turmoil. Let's see how we look against a country where everything is all right. Let me see one match against a country where everybody's pretty much okay, and then we'll see.
Yeah, the defense worries me still. The defense worries me still. I think it's the weakest unit of our squad. And even today, like, you know, we conceded 2. I know the penalty was soft, but you know, the ball still had to be in the box, causing problems for it to happen. So yeah, I mean, I'm still worried. I mean, I know that Taremi, who scored the goals, he's been on fire for Porto this season. So he is a player that you can't give chances to. But yeah, I still think we got a weakness there that might be exploited when we play, like, you know, teams who can defend as well as attack, and then we can have some problems. But
well, the Queiroz's whole strategy was to sit back. He didn't even have Taremi in the game in the beginning, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the question I want to ask you. What happened? Why did you change coaches?
You know, I was trying to get that answer from a few other guys. I honestly don't know what happened. Like, why would you give up the coach that got you there? So I don't know if it was politics. I don't know if he said something or did something. I honestly don't know the details of that. Like, I was trying to look it up, and every article that's written is very PC. They go, Carlos Queiroz is coming on to, you know, lead them into the World Cup, you know, but doesn't get into why.
Has Carlos Queiroz ever been like successful when like he's good working for other people?
United, yeah.
But he was under Ferguson, right?
Yeah.
And then when he I think he got a job at New York Red Bulls at the time? He didn't do good. Like, none of his like jobs.
He was the Iran national coach for a while, and I think it was the previous Olympics where World Cup, where I think he was the
2014. I think 2014 in Brazil, he was the.
Okay,
he was the coach. And he might have still been by 2018 in Russia as well. But I remember in 2014 they were quite competitive. Like, I remember Argentina had to beat you guys with a really late goal from Messi.
91st minute, Messi beat us.
Yeah.
And then think about last one. Ian and I were watching.
Yeah,
you know,
Portugal.
With Portugal, they got close, and if it weren't, they got close with Spain too. So
yeah.
You know, they had some good coaching going. Queiroz, I think, also coached the Egyptian team and did well with them. He seems like a coach that has done pretty well with some teams. But yeah, I don't care who you are. You can't bring on, you know, last minute, you know, 3 weeks before, bring on a new coach and expect it to really mesh. It's just not going to happen.
But Maz,
I heard the player they brought on.
ask something? Yeah.
Go ahead, Maz.
Yeah.
Maz, let me ask you this, because I remember when we did the podcast like almost 2 years ago, we talked about this game against United States, which Iran won back in the day, and it was like almost like a political statement.
98.
Based on what you just said about the political situation in Iran, what do you think from their perspective, the government and perspective of the country and the perspective of regular people, is that game against United States? What significance, what other, I would say, flavor does it bring?
Well, you know, there's a couple of things. First of all, a lot of Iranians just said, I'm not even going to watch the World Cup. There's a contingent who goes, I can't celebrate something when the government's literally killing hundreds of people, including children. Like, they've killed like 50, 60 children. So a lot of people said, I don't even want to watch it. Now, I personally thought it was an opportunity. I said, hey, this is an opportunity to have the world eyes on you, because there's still a lot of people around the world who maybe don't know as much about what about the protests, and I don't blame them. Every country's got its own problems. People have to live their lives. They're not paying as much attention. So I thought I could bring attention to the plight of the Iranian people. And similarly, what you're saying, when they play against the U.S., they have a chance. I mean, every game they have a chance, and obviously the socio-political issue with the U.S. is even bigger. So the American eyeballs will be on there, but British eyeballs. If you were to rank the countries that you should protest in front of, probably U.S. and then England are right next to each other. Because both those countries have had a history in Iran. They've had a history in overthrowing governments in Iran. And so that's something the players could have done maybe more with. I'm not sure how it's being. I think a lot of people are perceiving it as like not enough. However, as an Iranian American watching it, I was listening to the crowd to see if the crowd would do the chant, which is "Woman, Life, Freedom, Zan Zendegi Azadi," and also and I felt like there was times when I was hearing chants, and then you would hear people do those horns or start chanting, do 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 Iran, which is the pro-Iran chant. So I don't know if there was actual fans there that were either sent by the Islamic regime to say drown it out. Anytime these guys start drowning this out, which you couldn't put it beyond.
It's totally possible. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw some fans had the sign with that slogan on. Some fans were holding up.
But
the
they
woman
did
life
boo.
Freedom.
But I think they did boo the national anthem, right? This
They
is something
booed
the
the
coach
national
brought
anthem.
up later on.
Yeah, they booed the national anthem, and then they did a thing where they were saying "Bi Sharaf, Bi Sharaf." Bi Sharaf means like without morals or without dignity, and that's something that they've been yelling at anybody who's pro-regime. You see it in the protests. They'll say "Bi Sharaf, Bi Sharaf." So there was a point in the game when they started yelling "Bi Sharaf, Bi Sharaf," and I wasn't clear if they were saying it to the government or if they were saying it to the players to say, "How dare you guys play for this government with the thing on." And then, by the way, if you watch when Sardar Uzman comes on at the end, he got the loudest cheer from the Iranian fans because he was one of the guys who actually had said something.
Right.
But I mean, just in terms of like what they did with the national anthem, when they lined up and they refused to sing the national anthem, I think that itself was. And if you just like contrast it with what is happening on the England side, where the English FA had made a lot of noise about taking a stance against the LGBT laws in Qatar, but then at the first hint of some sort of pushback, they completely fumbled the ball and they didn't go ahead with anything. And meanwhile, these guys have to go back to their families. They have families. They're still going ahead with it, which I thought was a great mirror for these.
Listen, you're right. It's really easy to criticize. It's hard to be in that position, but at some point, like some of the former stars of the Iran team, one of them in particular, Ali Karimi, who was a big star, along with Ali Daei, who was the guy who had the most goals in the world until Ronaldo surpassed him. They both made statements, and Ali Karimi, I think they repossessed his home in Iran or something, and there was rumors that they were going to try and kidnap him. He's living in Dubai now. But there are people who realize the gravity of the situation, and they go, I'm just going to step up and do, the Colin Kaepernicks of the world. And you would hope for something like that. And as you said, it's easier for me to just be like, oh yeah, you should all take knees, and then maybe like you said, they'll take their families hostage. I don't know what they'll do. But again, it was left up to the people to do most of the protesting. You saw the England team did take a knee right before the game started, but then again, it's like the interpretation. The announcer said that was a knee against injustice all over the world, which is like, all right, that's just like neither here nor there.
Well, yeah, that was their makeup for not wearing the LBGT thing. So that's like a shots fired at Qatar. Also, I guess a little bit support for Iran.
Yeah.
But so what could be some of the repercussions for some of these players when they get home? Like if they don't sing the anthem again, or they just didn't sing it this time, You think they could be in like some type of heat?
I think like they probably got away with the least amount of protest that they could do, because as you just said, like they might go back and they all have visibility, and the odds of the regime actually imprisoning them for not singing the national anthem are low, because the regime probably feels like, all right, you guys, you got it out of your system and we'll move on. Now if they taken a knee and like held a fist, in protest or something and taken it to the next level, then yeah, maybe there could have been things of like, we'll take your property, we'll take you to prison. They might have, I don't know. And that, again, that's why I say it's a lot easier. It's easy for me to talk, but I was thinking while I was watching the game, I go, gosh, imagine there's a guy who tried out for this team and didn't make it. He's probably like just going, thank God. Back then when he didn't make the right? When he didn't make the team back then, he was probably like, oh, bummer. Now he's probably like, God, the pressure on these guys.
I can keep my house.
Yeah, and keep my house, But at the same time, again, there are those who are more, because also you got to realize like there's still a portion of the population who's going to be supportive of the regime, probably because they're highly religious and they think whatever the regime says, it's the word of God, so I'm going to support them. So there's possible players who think like that. I don't know. But there's also players who I think clearly, and a majority of the country who clearly is done with this regime. And so, yeah, it's like, I thought the other way to go, look, if you don't have ties in the country that are like hardcore ties, it's like your parents and stuff, like they're not going to bother your parents as much. But if you could, if you were, let's say, single, you could have taken a knee, done the fist, walked off the field, and then applied for political asylum in Germany or some other country and be like, I'm out,
But I agree with you, Maz, that some players are loyal to the regime because, like even here in the United States, we have a best example with Alex Ovechkin, who is one of the greatest hockey player of the century. His profile photo on Instagram is his photo with Putin. And every interview, whenever he's asked, he pledges his loyalty to Putin. He calls him a personal friend. Even if he makes, tons of money playing in the United States and he's one of the biggest stars of the American League, he still displays his complete loyalty to someone who is right now in, who created the biggest war of our times.
Yeah, you got to realize that these people all come from different backgrounds. It's like sometimes when we give way too much credit to athletes, and then you hear them talk and like, oh wow, this guy's crazy, or like religiously crazy. We all know a lot of the players who play in these Latin countries, the South American countries. Oh wow, this guy's a superstar. But then, who was it? It was Kaká. I think Kaká was like, I don't know if he was.
Oh, Maz, you're talking about Bolsonaro, right?
Oh, was he down with Bolsonaro? There you have it. There you have it.
Yeah, I mean, the entire team, the current Brazilian, it's almost 90% of them are Bolsonaro supporters.
Yeah, and I think Kaká was like,
What's that?
I think Bolsonaro was the former he was the Trump of Brazil, and Kaká was, if I'm not mistaken, like one of these crazy religious types who, I don't know if it was evangelical or what, but it was just like, and you see him play and he looks like, oh, he's just some guy. He's probably out with the guys after the game. No, he's not. Remember like AC Green used to be, I think he was like
someone was a virgin.
Mormon or something.
I think he was a virgin.
Another example. Hakan
It was a virgin, yeah.
Hakan Şükür, former Real Madrid star, one of the greatest Turkish players of all time. He's a leader of a cult. He's a leader of a religious cult.
There you have
there was a goalkeeper who played for Argentina in France '98, Carlos Roa. He saved the penalty that sent England out. He quit football. He quit football in 1999 because he thought the world was going to end with Y2K.
Yeah, and he didn't play on Sundays. That was the reason they terminated his contract, because he believed that he was so religious that he couldn't play on Sundays.
Yeah, he quit football because he thought the rapture was coming, and then it didn't, and then he came out of retirement.
So all of that to say, we see our heroes in these athletes, and then you hear them speak, and you go, oh wow. So they come from different backgrounds, and so there's probably some on the team who support the regime. But also, there's, I think, a lot of members of the team. You can't be living in Iran and seeing the atrocities and not even like I said, Ali Daei, who was again the top goal scorer in history until Ronaldo beat him. So he's probably the best known historical Iranian soccer player.
Played for Bayern Munich.
Yeah, he played for Bayern Munich. He was he was being interviewed. Somebody was asking him, and he goes, "Look, I'm not a political person, but what I can tell you is I'm standing with the people of Iran. Like I can't sit here and watch my people get killed like this." So he was trying to say it's not even a political thing. He's like, just stop killing your own people, because the difference between Ukraine and Iran is Ukraine has Russia killing Ukrainians. Iran has the Iranian government killing Iranians. Somebody worded it very well. It's not the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's the Islamic Republic versus Iran. So there you have it.
Oh, that's pretty bananas. I hope things, this is just words. I hope things get better. Shout out and love to the people of Iran. And I don't know how long this is going to take, but hopefully things get better 100%.
So you're playing Wales. You're playing Wales now. You confident you can beat Wales?
Geez, after today, I don't think we can beat like anybody. We're looking, it's funny. I was trying to tell my son about it. I'm trying to tell my son and wife, and they don't follow soccer that much. I go, the first game was Qatar, Ecuador. I go, talk about like a low marquee game, and I go, Qatar. I go, what do they do? I go, Qatar's like barely an AYSO team. And then my son was like, well, Iran's not that great. I go, they've always had some pretty good teams. I go, they might be able to compete. But then after today, I was like, oh God, Qatar might beat Iran. I don't know.
You've been to Qatar before?
I've been to Qatar. I was in that stadium that they say, like, from a certain angle, looks like a woman's anatomy.
From above.
Yeah,
it looks like a woman's vagina from the woman's vagina part.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been. Qatar is an interesting thing too, because, gosh, when you go there, it's very international. It's kind of like a smaller Dubai in a way, and there's people from all over the place. But yeah, I've been watching. I don't know if you guys been watching the FIFA the documentary on FIFA on Netflix.
Tell them to watch. Yeah, tell all of them. Yeah,
it's great. And then also all the corruption that's coming out. That, like, I was just listening to something. Someone wrote a book about it, about how Qatar got the World Cup, and you reflect. You go, oh wow, it is. It's just it was so corrupt, and it was so obviously corrupt that, like, the whole world was like, oh, there's got to be bribes all over the place, because
that's some things that were pretty obvious and that we didn't kind of notice at the time. When you see they have the main sheikhs of Qatar have meetings with French president to gain his approval for that, so France will vote for Qatar to Qatar host the World Cup, to get the World Cup, and then like a month later, Qatarian consortium puts money into Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, like, those things that you connect those dots, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and it's funny because Sepp Blatter now is talking. So he's like, he said something like, the Qataris went into a private meeting with Nicolas Sarkozy back then, and they basically were like, if you give us your vote, we'll buy some fighter jets from you. But it's funny when Sepp Blatter is telling on you and talking about your corruption, you got to be really corrupt.
Well, what's the funniest part of it, Maz? What's the funniest part?
Yeah,
it's the moment when they were when they were about to reveal who won the competition, right?
Yeah.
And Sepp Blatter was for United States. He was telling everybody to vote for United States. And then there's this moment when he realizes it's Qatar, and then he said in his interview, and at this moment, I know we'll be in trouble. And then, like a year later, FBI starts investigation, and all that happens about the corruption in FIFA. Yeah.
No, I saw the documentary, and one of my takeaways was that you kind of needed a certain level of corruption to get the World Cup out of Europe, because it was kind of like you're battling corruption versus racism. Because there's no way these guys are going to let the World Cup in normal playing field world. The World Cup's never getting out of Europe or South America.
Yeah, there was like a balance of corruption needed. It's almost like they have affirmative action for Black people here. Like you needed some affirmative corruption to get the
if
World
you
Cup to other countries.
Yeah, exactly.
If you clue in on one of the episodes, it's actually Nelson Mandela signing up on some product to get the World Cup to South Africa. So
he was the greatest.
You got to do it.
Well, listen, you got to take it. If you take it from the point of view of the country, it's clear, like, you know, it can be a good thing for your country, economically, but also PR wise. Of course, the problem is if you've got all these problems, then it also, with good PR, there's also going to be bad PR, right? But yeah, it's a shame because as much as, you know, it's funny because, you know, football, FIFA, whatever, World Cup, it brings out, you know, it's a beautiful game. We all watch it. We love it, this and that. And it brings out a lot of beauty and camaraderie, but it also brings out the ugliness, right? So unfortunately, racists also like football. as do you know, homophobes, as do, you know, fill in your blank. So when you get somebody going like, oh yeah, we you know, no, if you're gay, don't come to this World Cup. It's like, what do you know, what happened to the beautiful game? It just all of a sudden got really ugly really fast.
I saw a gay guy today on camera. I don't know if anybody saw it on their feed. Like he had no shirt on, and I think he was English. I think it was during an English game, and he was just standing there. And I was like, this guy is kind of low-key protesting, like being there. The camera just landed on him and then just went away. But
that's funny.
Yeah. I don't want to change the topic, but we got to go soon. So I just want to ask Martin. Neil, you might have to like put that on silent.
What the hell was going on? What was that?
Oh, rich guy over here has got construction going on at his house.
Oh, that's funny. All right.
Yeah. So tomorrow, Mexico versus Poland. Martin is Polish.
Yeah.
So I just want to see how Martin feels with Poland, the horrendous way they've been playing. Like, what do you think of your chances? Because Mexico, I don't think they've been playing that great either.
Yeah, my taco people who sell me tacos every day, they're giving me a hard time last couple of days. So I partially want them to win because of, you know, I want to see their faces tomorrow. But yeah, I think, you know, listen, we have Lewandowski. Lewandowski can win you a game. And I think he's determined. That's his last World Cup. The team is full of gaps, especially defensively. It's even, we have even worse defense than England, I would say. So yeah, that's pretty bad. But I think we can beat Mexico. But the only problem is that history works against us in a way. Because Mexico, I think they came out of the group eight times in the last 8 World Cups. So they always make it out of the group somehow, even when they don't have a great team. And this is not a very good team. I actually went to see Mexico against Peru in Rose Bowl 3 months ago. Or 2 months ago. That was their last friendly, fully packed Rose Bowl, all Mexican people. Great Mexican food, was fun experience, but the game was terrible. It was really, really bad game. And yeah, they don't have much talent except of Lozano. So I hope we can squeeze a win, because having Argentina in the group, this is do or die situation. Whoever wins this game has a pretty good chance to go through. Whoever loses this game pretty much is out. The next game we play against Saudi Arabia, so we have a chance to start the World Cup nicely or horribly. Depends.
Argentina's playing Saudi Arabia tomorrow at 2 a.m. And the one thing I can say for Saudi Arabia is, like, when these players from Saudi Arabia look back in history, they get to say they played against Messi, and you know, and you played in a World Cup. And I think that's where all the positivity ends. Like, this Argentina team seems to be pretty strong, so they should be able to dismantle Saudi Arabia. Like how good is Saudi Arabia in the Middle East? I guess they're pretty decent in the Middle East.
Defensively,
right?
they have
or in Asia. So what?
Defensively, they have like extremely good record. They pretty much don't concede any goals.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if any Middle Eastern team has even gone to the next round. There's got to be like a hand. If anything,
it's 1994. I remember they had the guy who in 1994 in the World Cup in the United States. They had this guy out of Iran. He scored a similar goal as Diego Maradona against England. He dribbled past the whole. Remember that goal?
Yeah.
One of the greatest goals ever scored.
But I don't think they
Al
went
Bayram.
through the second round, did they?
They did went to last 16. Yeah, they finished second in the group.
Okay.
And Al Bayram, I was a hero after that, and he became. I think he started partying a lot, and they expelled him because he was drinking excessively in Saudi Arabia.
The way Maz laughed, like typical.
Never ends well. Never ends well.
They've got a good coach though. Saudi Arabia. They've got a good coach. They got Hervé Renard, who he's won 2 African Nations Cups with 2 different nations. Once with Zambia, once with Ivory Coast. So he's like a serial international manager. Just looking, he's managed Zambia, Angola, Zambia again, Ivory Coast, Morocco, and now Saudi Arabia. So he's tactically very smart. So it'd be interesting to see whether or not his tactical smartness can bridge that clear talent deficit that they'll have to Argentina. I mean, most teams have a talent deficit to Argentina, so that'd be fun to watch. I still think, at least 3 or 4-0.
Like the games in California are crazy. 2 a.m., 5 a.m., 8 a.m., and it's like I have to go to bed at 8 p.m.
You know what's so funny?
No sleep to watch Messi play in his last World Cup. Like I can't not watch that game. So
this is a good month to move to New York. At least you get a little bit of a break.
Yeah. You're right.
Well, the schedule's perfect for me, but the problem is I'm up doing a podcast right now at 2:30 in the morning. That's thrown it for me.
You know what's so funny? There's this bar around the block, and they made a big song and dance. They have like banners all over saying how they're going to carry every game of the World Cup and they're going to be open for every game. So I'm like, really? I wanted to ask, like, are you really going to be open for every game? Like, yeah, every game. I'm like, okay, so you're going to be open at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. Like, no. We open at 7:30. So somebody didn't get the menu of the memo of half the World Cup.
They didn't know the schedule. They just thought, the World Cup, this should happen during the day. No, it doesn't happen convenient bar American time.
Yeah.
No. Well, Maz, I won't hold you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, brother.
And good luck in the tournament. You're gonna watch the other
I have one final question.
Yes.
So Iran's last game is versus the US, right? So it's a good chance Iran's already out of the World Cup by then.
Yeah.
And it could be a scenario where USA needs a win to go through to the next round.
Yeah.
Who do you want to win? USA goes through.
I'll root for Team USA. The truth is, I swear to God, today I was watching. I go, if the England team takes a knee in support of the people of Iran, I'll root for England. Like, I'm at that point right now. Like, I want people to get outside of the football, and this is your chance to rise up a little bit and make some bigger statements. So if the Iranian team against Team USA takes a knee and puts a fist in the air, then I want them to win. If Team USA does something, I want them to win. And if it's neither do it, then yeah, of course I want Team USA to move on into the next round. Like, it would be great to root for Team USA, of course.
Yeah, it seems to be that kind of World Cup. Lots of political things at play, and I think the world's watching, like, who does what kind of gesture.
Yeah. We shall see, gentlemen. We shall see. So I always say, if you're a fan of Iran or the US, you always have a backup team. So I'm just waiting to see kind of who's
well, Ian has like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I remember one World Cup, I could legitimately root for 3 teams.
Yeah.
Because England was in it, America was in it, and Jamaica was in it.
There you go.
But I could also lose 3 ways.
Yeah.
Like, and I definitely did.
And you did, 1998, exactly. Yeah.
So,
America didn't make out of the group, Jamaica didn't make out of the group, and England lost in last 16.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for remembering that, Martin. It's a great memory. All right, peace, Maz. Tell everybody what's up, all right?
Take care. Bye-bye.
Denmark, Tunisia. Should be Denmark. France versus Australia. Should be
Could be an
France.
France.
Could be an
That's
upset.
a good like workout game, warm up game for France though. Australia.
Well, they've confirmed now Benzema's done like entirely now, which is pretty crazy. He's out, like he's gone.
It was in
and then-
Kunku.
And Kunku is done too. He's gone.
Wow.
But you know what?
Have they called up? Have France called up anyone in replacement at all?
Apparently, I don't know if this is true or not. Apparently, the coach, what's his name? Deschamps, he was asked about calling up Martial.
Yeah, I heard about that.
He said that he preferred to not call up anybody instead.
He said what?
He said he preferred to not call anybody out. If he has to
Here's a
call
weapon.
Martial.
Here's a weapon that they do have, Dembele.
Hmm.
So imagine Dembele on one side of the field and Mbappe on the other side of the field. Like I don't know how creative Tuchemi is going to be, and the other Real Madrid kid,
Camavinga.
Camavinga is going to be, but like having Dembele is like having a midfield on the right side.
And if you
That
put the
can
ball in there,
split the game
Giroud,
open.
if you put the ball in there, Giroud will score.
Yeah.
Like,
I was about to say as well, like Giroud probably does a better job for the team than Benzema.
Yes.
Like Giroud will be more unselfish. I even saw there was a guy who used to play as a defender for PSG. He's Uruguayan, Diego Lugano. He came out today and said that he goes they won't say it, but he goes, I think a lot of the French team won't miss Benzema. They'll be quite happy he's gone, because apparently although he's a great player, he's also a difficult personality in some respects. So he's like, yeah, they're probably going to be more harmonious without him. So that'd be interesting. But yeah, like you say, if they got Dembele one side and Mbappe the other side, and then Giroud doing all the donkey work in the middle, just fighting off defenders, holding the ball up, giving it to people, that could work out quite well for them.
Griezmann behind as a sort of a second striker, number 10.
And this is what I love about Griezmann. Like people be like, Griezmann don't be scoring, he doesn't score. But that guy works like a midfielder. And he tackles and he fights for the team. And it's like it just works for what they do. So it like you can't be like Griezmann didn't score enough goals. Like just look at the other shit that he's doing. He adds value to the team. And France is still dangerous.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, one thing I want to say before we go, it's like that is new in this World Cup is like ridiculous amounts of stoppage time. It was 27 minutes of stoppage time in an England-Iran game. I think it was like 16 minutes total stoppage time in the US Wales game. I don't know why is that, but it's
I feel that's good. I feel like so much time wasting happens and officials just
so
like
much
clump
stoppage.
up.
It's like
Yeah, it didn't help. It didn't help in the England game. You had VAR calls and you had a goalkeeper down for like 10 minutes as well. And there was other, like Kane was down for a little bit with an ankle injury. So I could see where they got the time from in that game. Yeah,
I was worried about the 1 hour in between games, because when you watch the Premier League, it's a half hour in between games. But it's a good thing they did that, because today they needed that hour in between games, because games finished a half hour late. So, well, guys, thanks everybody watching and listening. Let's continue to enjoy this World Cup. We'll do another one on Thursday. Hopefully teams win or do their thing. Leave us messages in the comments, or even when the podcast is posted on Twitter, let us know who you're for. And let's go. One. Stop this.